Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about passion and having a good career. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, can people who aren't passionate about programming still have a good software engineering career? Of course, it's just a job at the end of the day. Um and I was talking to my friend the other day about that. I said that there are only two things that can help you achieve anything: hard work and talent. And for the people who are less fortunate, hard work is the only, like, you know, is the only option you have, and passion is necessary for you usually, or some type of drive is necessary for you to do all that hard work. People with talent and so forth, they will in many cases get ahead, but at the end of the day, hard work and continuous drive and like just sort of grinding away will overcome talent if talent is not nurtured. And for the horrible people who have both the passion and like the drive and the talent, uh, I hope I speak for everybody who does not have all of these things, that you go fuck yourself. You're a horrible person, and all your success is horrible and stings the eyes of everybody else. But for those of us who have sort of understood, as I was saying, that programming is just a job, uh, you don't have to worry so much, because there is like fundamentally, as I said, if you have the talent to do the job, the skills, call it whatever you want, then the passion and all that good stuff, right? This is the ideal case. But the reality is, guys, that there is no way for software, the IT at large, like the software companies, to only hire passionate people, because the need is never gonna, like, the supply is never gonna meet it, never in a million years. And this is true for practically every industry, except for a few, which is which is the sorts of industries where it is necessary for you to have passion in order to get anywhere. An example would be, say, music or sports or something like that. It's very difficult for you to go through the sorts of tasks and like get really good at something like that when it's like a really competitive sport, or being an artist or something like that, without having some measure of a interest in the subject. Programming is a little bit different here, where if you want to get really, really good and learn all the things, you have to have passion. But at the same time, you don't really have to be like many of us are being sort of convinced, like this super zealous, you love everything about it, you learn everything about it, etc., etc., because it most companies, guys, they're not Google. Most companies are not Facebook or like so forth. And even in these companies, guys, they don't just have passionate people. I think I read the other day that Zuckerberg, or like Meta, as it's called now, they're gonna lay off like an enormous amount, like thousands and thousands of people. And Netflix and like all these other companies, they've done the same thing. If you think about it yourself, guys, how many passionate people, like just in general, have you ever met, truly passionate, who are passionate about something specific, and they've sustained that over a very long period of time? And I'm not talking watching TV now. There's no way that I think we're talking about like hundreds and hundreds of people, that all of these people are all like super passionate people who are all going to be like sorely missed by the company. No. What happens is that most of IT companies, they bring in people who will fit the bill. And you don't have to have passion to have the skills. That's basically what I'm telling you. It's extremely frustrating for people who are very passionate about programming and so forth, to if they're like placed in the wrong circumstances, and it can be very detrimental to a company's code base if they have if they have a lot of workers who are not very interested, because as I said, the passion and skill, they go together. If you have passion for programming, over time you will get better at it usually than people who have no passion whatsoever, because they will stagnate and they will start to level out. But as long as they can fit the bill, as I said, then the value of having them in the company is still there. And as I said, there is no way for you to hire, say, just even a team. Try a team of truly passionate software developers who all have the skills necessary to do the job. I can promise you that's not going to happen. The reason why I can promise you is because after all these years of working now, after all the hires that I've done or helped out in the teams I've worked in and so forth, I can tell you for a fact that the majority of people who work in IT are on a range, and there are very few people who I would put in the bucket of they are so passionate about IT that they do it in their spare time, or they do it like they have an interest in going to conferences, if it's not, of course, paid by the company, of course. But what I'm saying is, guys, that most people are not zealous and passionate about their software career. Not at all. What is good to consider, though, guys, is that it's, of course, usually easier if you have some passion for it, not just because of that the hiring process usually is a little bit smoother for you, because usually people see these things as positive things, because IT, of course, wants only passionate people, but the supply isn't there, and it's probably never going to be. And trust me, it's not just IT who's looking for this, guys. Every single employer in the entire world wants passionate workers. I promise you that much. But the other part of it is that it's going to help you through the early years. So some people make it through school, or like getting their first job, or learning how to have all these skills I'm talking about through other means. And it's not like it can't work, guys. What I'm saying is just that it can be a little bit tricky to learn all the things about programming if you have no real interest in it. I know for a fact that you can, and as I said, it's sort of it's the fuel that starts the whole thing. Many software developers later on lose their passion and so forth. As I said, that's it's not a requirement for you to have it to be a good software developer or have a good career. But in the early stages, when you don't even have the skills, and if you don't have the drive, or it doesn't have to be passion. I mean, it can be just fear of survival fear, whatever. But you need something to force you to sit down and learn how to code, and you need to learn that well enough so that you can meet the expectations of the industry. That is the prerequisite, and I'm not saying that has to be passion. I'm just saying that passion helps a long way there. So what I want you to take away from this is that, the short version is no, you don't have to have passion about programming to have a good software engineering career. In fact, the bulk, it's very likely, for everybody who's watching this, it's highly likely that you will be one of the people who either starts out with passion and then lose it later, or you don't really have it and you're just looking at IT as a means of it seems sort of interesting. Maybe it's not your biggest passion in life, but it's good money, it's stable work, etc., etc. You're doing it for a circumstance. It's not your, big passion in life, that type of deal. It is the minority of people who feel that way, and I know that it doesn't sound that way sometimes when you look at job postings and you see all these, community works and open source projects, etc., etc. But you should know that is the minority of the industry that you're looking at. It's the ideal, it's the thing that everybody wants, the rock stars, etc., etc. But as I've said many times, guys, you can't scale talent like that. it's never going to happen. It's the same reason why some football clubs have to have so-so players, because there's not enough of the superstars running around who are willing to join their their clubs or teams and so forth. That's the reality. Truly talented and passionate people are always going to be a minority, and that's a pro tip for the companies. Realize that that is the case and understand how to deal with that situation, because if you don't, what happens is that you get issues because you put the non-passionate software developers and the really passionate software developers in the same bucket. And then, well, have you ever seen like people who are extremely talented work with people who are either not so talented or doesn't really care, like apathetic towards their work? There's usually friction. And so my tip to everybody who's watching here, listening to this, is that when you're hiring people, learn what it is that you need from them. Do you need someone who is truly passionate and like really drives things? Well, maybe they should have a different set of considerations for the sort of role that you try to put them in, and then for the people who actually have the skills and just does the job, but there may not be the most passionate person in the world or the person who's going to drive everything. Maybe you put them in a role where their skills can be leveraged, but without putting them in a situation where this causes problems for other people within the organization. Because the reality is, guys, you don't have to be passionate to do well in software development. Good code is not written by passion alone. It's written by skill. Have a great day.